Well, good afternoon, boys and girls. It's a Friday. Oh, I love Fridays. And welcome. Welcome to Buckeye Wars. What's Buckeye Wars? It's a collection, little memories, little snippets of what it was like for me. I'm 60. Growing up in El Dorado Hills, California in the 70s and the 80s. Welcome. So, question for today. Are you crafty? Do you make stuff? I mean, hell, it could be quilts. Maybe you make knives. Maybe you just make everybody around you crazy. I'm real good at that. Back in high school, in the late 70s, or I guess it was the full late 70s, started about 78 and went through, I graduated in 81. I took an awful lot of craft classes because I could. I had room in my schedule. I took all the requirements, and then any other spots that were available, I would take arts and crafts classes. Loved to build stuff, loved to make stuff. I did leather. Didn't much like leather. Stained glass. I was pretty good at stained glass. Jewelry. I did the lost wax process in jewelry making. That's where you take and you build what you're wanting out of little bitty pieces of wax, and then they put it in a mold, and they pour like a cast over it that dries, and then they put it in the kiln, and it melts away the wax that was in there, and then they replace where the wax was with silver or gold if you had the money to do that, or what have you. And then you take that piece and you file away all the little bubbles, if there was, from the process, and you end up with a ring or whatever you had put together. Personally, I was really into fishing at the time, and I made a bass, a real thin, largemouth bass out of silver. It was cool. I think I made some rings and maybe a cross, stuff like that. But I took a macrame class, or a few macrame classes, and I was really good at macrame. At the time, macrame plant hangers were a big thing, but I took it further than that. Actually, I got a hold of a pattern to make a macrame frog. It was kind of interesting. I had a friend that provided me with ceramic eyes that were big. They would fit in the palm of your hand. Decent size ceramic eyeballs for my frog, and he hung from his head by a ring, like a wood ring. Then you had his head with those big old ceramic eyeballs, and his mouth was open, and you could put a bar of soap in his mouth. And then he had his body with some macrame arms that stuck out and made him look more frog-like. And then under his body was another ring, which was bigger, and you could put a towel on that ring. So basically, it was made out of specific material that was more waterproof than the regular jute. This was more of a I don't know what you call it, kind of a plasticky material. Anyway, it was waterproof, and it would go in your bathroom. Kind of decorative. And at the time, macrame was the thing. So I marketed these damn things. One summer, good God, it was maybe the summer of 79, maybe the summer of 80. I sold $450 worth of these frogs, and mixed in there was a few plant hangers because people wanted plant hangers. I sold those too. But the place that cut my mom's hair in El Dorado Hills at the time, she had boasted that her son was really good at macrame and that he made these frogs. And they were willing to hang that in their shop where women would come and get their hairs cut. And by jinkies, if that promotion of hanging in there and, oh, check that out, I sold the dickens out of those things. And in 1979/1980, $450 for a kid was like equivalent to maybe $4,500 nowadays. Ooh, baby, it was awesome. And I was fishing a lot. We lived close to Folsom Lake. I could get on my bicycle. My buddies and I would go down to Folsom Lake and screw around in the summertime. And $450 bought an awful lot of lures and bait. Because we would buy live bait sometimes and put it in the bucket, have minnows. We would buy night crawlers, or we would buy grubs for the bluegill, or a jar of salmon eggs. Always had a jar of salmon eggs. And the jar of salmon eggs, if I remember correctly, at the time was costing about $2.75. And for about the same price, you could get a dozen minnows. The minnows worked really good, but they were a pain in the ass to try to keep alive. Anyway, reason I'm asking this is, do you make anything? Do you have a hobby? Because currently, at Christmas, I received a Dremel for a Christmas present. And I have since then purchased a bunch of fancy bits that do different things, and I'm carving wood. And by damn if I didn't make a little, and I'm currently working on one, but I made a little teddy bear. Cutest little thing out of wood, basswood. And I'm currently carving some cedar, and I've got on deck a piece of cherry, and I'm just having so much fun making these little teddy bears out of wood with a Dremel, which is, if you don't know what a Dremel is, you might have to look it up, but it's basically a small drill, and it's handheld, kind of like a pen, thick pen. It has variable speeds on it. It goes pretty fast, and it's got different heads on it. And you take those little heads. Some of them are pointy, some of them are conical, some of them are spherical, little drill bit type thingamajiggies, and you carve wood with that going zzz, and you got to put a mask on. The N95 is sufficient, or if you want to go further and get a respirator, that's probably better. Eye protection, perhaps gloves, because I've had it roll and nick my hand, and I've got a couple boo-boos on my hands. And you got to be careful. But, oh my God, I had so much fun. And I fashioned, get this, I fashioned a table with pegboard. So it's got, dozens of little bitty holes on it, pegboard. And I did that over a small storage container. And in the side of the storage container, I have the hose to my shop vac. And I fixed it all together. So basically, the box the storage box is a chamber, which is a kind of like an added attachment to the vacuum cleaner, and it sucks down the dust. So, yes, I'm wearing my dust mask and my eye protection to protect me from the flying bits and pieces of teddy bear. But it's not making near the mess that it should and could, because it's sucking the dust down into the vacuum cleaner via the platform that I made that I can work atop of, and the bits and pieces of dust go down and don't go flying into my face. Oh, it's so cool. Anyway, I just wanted to know, are you crafty? Do you make anything? Just curious. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Buckeye Wars.